they're actually hard to follow. But if you look at either the table of contents or like an outline or a flow chart from a commercial study guide, that's a great place to say, oh, I see how this fits in. This is indented, the same as that part is indented. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry, remind me again. So for the first year students, you're all taking constitutional law and you're also all taking property?
No, I'm taking CLEO.
You're taking CLEO, but not property.
No, I took that last semester.
Okay. And how about you guys?
I have property.
You have property and what else? Con law, property, criminal law?
Contract.
Contracts. Okay. Contracts is another one. Contracts is really tough to see, to know, starting out, where the pieces fit in and how they relate to one another. So that's a class where you want to take some time, look maybe at some outside source outside of your class. Like, I know the professor's syllabuses, especially in contracts, are not always that helpful because a lot of times the professors put like questions on the syllabus or they put like a lot of language in the syllabus and it's not really showing you how they relate to topics. But if you look at like, or even a horn book, I don't love horn books, but for this it would be okay to just open it up. I wouldn't go out and buy a horn book for this purpose, but to look for something to say, oh, okay, I understand this is the way these topics fit together. This is where this goes. It's a really important step to do that, to figure out where you are.
I feel like the difficulty with classes like contracts and evidence is that they're using cases to explain statutory interpretation, like they're to interpret statutes. And you know, with contracts, it's the restatement of the UCC, and it's very difficult to pull statutory interpretation from cases. So it is in that way very difficult to stay oriented within the subject matter. But if you can just, first of all, just say to yourself, in contracts class, I'm trying to figure out whether or not I have a deal. That's the big overall question, whether or not I have a deal and whether or not there's going to be somebody on the hook for it. So just at least start from there. And then within that subject matter, figure out how this piece relates to, do I have a deal and who's on the hook for it? And with evidence class, of course, the overall question is it admissible? But once it here, is it admissible because it's relevant or irrelevant? Is it admissible because it's competent or incompetent? So then you can bring it down from there as well. So you want to try to get a study guide that's not that detailed.
Right, right. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for like bare bones.
Right. So that you could just figure out what's the big overall and then how does this one fit into the big overall topic.
Now, have we given you guys some ideas that maybe you didn't have before about getting oriented before you read? Do you right now feel like you have like, oh, I could do that. I've never done that before. Do you guys have something? Is there anybody that feels like, nah, I did a lot of stuff before? You could tell us. It's all right. Yeah, you feel like you kind of do?
No, I don't feel like that. I just have a question.
Sure, of course.
I like bought like canned briefs like last semester,
Yeah.
contract, and to get oriented sometimes, I guess, for the sake of time, I type slow, so when I type stuff, I actually like order it. So I would type like, I guess what I'm supposed to get out the case, what the brief was about, and then I would go back and read and highlight and do more.
That's a good idea.
Love it.
Okay, I just wanted to know if that
No,
was-
I like that idea
Yeah.
because you're trying to get oriented. You're trying to get oriented with a study guide that's not, the purpose of those study guides, those canned briefs, the high court summaries and so on, they're not to teach you about the cases at all.
Right, they're not even trying.
No.
So, yeah, so
That's trying to give you where this case fits
So,
in. That's a perfect way to
let me
use
just
it.
say this, okay? I think as a first year student, I probably looked at the headings just because I was trying to outline, but I don't think I actually like thought about the extent to which I understood where the case fit in. Like I would look at the word, like if the word said offer, but all right, it's about offer. But that's not what we mean. We mean like making sure you actually understand where it fits in. That might take a little time depending on what the subtopic is, or it might not. Like if I'm in civil procedure and I'm learning about personal jurisdiction and I understand that personal jurisdiction is about what state the defendant is being brought to, if I understand that on my Tuesday class, I still understand that for my Thursday class, and I don't have to go through this entire mental gymnastics again. But it depends on what you're talking about. So first, before we move on, under your step A on page 3, jot down some either notes or ideas that will remind you about things that we're talking about now that maybe you didn't do. You know, maybe it's a good idea for you to do about what does it mean to get oriented
Before you read a case. I know, first, just a word about your brain. The brain is a very, very lazy organ. It does not like to do stuff that it doesn't want to do. It'll find all kinds of ways to not do things that are difficult. That's what your brain does. It always, you know, it will create a path that it's familiar with at all times. Even if it's more difficult, it doesn't matter, that's the way that the brain wants to go. Your brain will not want to do the getting oriented part of your reading. Your brain will only want to go straight to the reading.
Yep.
Because that's easier to do, even though it's not easier to do. Do you understand? It's much easier to know where you're going to wind up on April 30th than it is to just sit here and read this case. But but your brain is used to that kind of work. I sit, I read, that's what I do. I sit, I read, that's what I do. That's what your brain's going to want to do. Don't do that. Just take the moment. It's a little weird. It's new and different.
And if it feels weird, it means you're doing it right.
You have to just reprogram your brain to want to get oriented within subject matter. April 30th will thank you for it. Okay, so just do it, resist. Okay, and then it will become a new way that your brain gets adjusted. Okay, that's true with everything, by the way. Your brain is very, very, very lazy. It's always also good to try to treat yourself for doing something that your brain doesn't want to do. So if you like, I like candy, like real candy, not chocolate. So, and I didn't, my favorite candy to use while I was studying is Jolly Ranchers or Chewy Jolly Ranchers. So I would keep Jolly Ranchers near me. I had a whole reason why I like Jolly Ranchers. I would keep Jolly Ranchers near me when I was studying. I could only have Jolly Ranchers when I was studying. When I walked away from studying, no more Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah, you should come up with
Some
it
kind
doesn't
of
have to
reward
be
system.
something that you're like eating. It can be, you know, but basically taking the time to say like, I respect the time that I'm putting into this right now. I'm going to use a nice pen. I'm going to have nice lighting. I mean, Michelle and I, when we studied together, even went so far as to have different scented oils for different subjects. And then we brought it to the exam and smelled it, and it was like, you know, it did that memory, that sense memory thing. And it actually, I mean, I actually think it really helped. But even if that was just a placebo effect, I don't think it was. I really think it helped.
Yeah.
But little things that you do to sort of acknowledge and respect what you're doing, they're important. Sit in a comfortable chair. Sit where there's good lighting. If you don't have a good desk lamp, go buy one. You know, I'm not saying to do things that are self-destructive or unhealthy, but I'm saying do things that show that this is special.
You guys are geeks, right? So when September comes around, you know you get excited about school supplies.
Like,
right?
get good ones.
So get good ones. Like I always find myself with the good pen and the cheap pen in my hand, and like I don't want to buy the expensive pen because I feel like it's
It's like wasteful.
It's wasteful, but you know what? Buy the good pen.
You're in law school, buy the good pen.
Buy the good pad. The legal pad with the extra reinforcement at the top, not just the glue.
Yeah.
You know, like, do that for yourself. Get the ergonomic chair. You know, it's $30 more. Just get it so that when you sit down in all of your geekness, you're like, you know what, this is a fantastic chair. I can't wait to sit in my chair. And I only get to sit in my chair to
When I'm
study,
studying.
not to Facebook.
Right. Or like, you know, whatever it is, if it's popcorn, whatever it is that makes you feel like, oh, this is my special
My
fun
special
treat.
study space, chair, pen,
If you
everything.
gain 5 pounds in law school, you'll lose it later. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. Okay?
So,
Okay, so
getting
we
oriented.
took
We're
notes
done
on any
getting-
questions with getting oriented? We beat it to death, right?
Right.
Okay, now we're going to move on to
Skimming.
what's the point, okay? Skimming the case. Figuring out the point of the case, and I know I forgot, or you were, what's your name again, I'm sorry? Mauricio, right? Mauricio said what he does is he tries to kind of like figure out where the case is going and then reads it. That is like the most important thing in the world to do. Now, I get the sense that there, you know, maybe by the time you get through your first semester, more people are doing that. When I was a law student, I definitely didn't do that. Not in the beginning. I would start to read, and then I would hit a word that I didn't understand by like the third line, and then I would have to go look it up, then I would come back, and then like I wouldn't allow myself to move on unless I totally understood exactly what happened as I
So
was reading.
when professors gave us the supplemental stuff that looked like a real case instead of a case, instead of your case book, and it had all the procedural history in the front, I went wild. When the professor gave this to me, I must exactly know what it is. So I would really take notes on the procedural history even, and like freak out over that, and like maybe even make a chart about the procedural history. Wrong, not necessary.
So like your job is, like you have to go in there with a mission. And now this is not the way we read other things, okay? This is sort of the opposite. Like the two ends of the spectrum are, one end, the way you read poetry, where every word is totally important, and the rhythm of the word, and you would never leave a line out. The other end of the spectrum is a case, is a case in law school, okay? Where half the words you're not going to look at them because they're not important, and you're like totally free to ignore them. It's fine, and it's bad if you don't ignore them, honestly. So you're like going in and you're like hunting for what you need. Like the way you use the yellow pages, if the yellow pages existed anymore. Okay? You only going there to look for what you want. You don't read everything because it's a waste of time. Okay? So you read a case, you know, you've oriented yourself so you know basically what you're looking for. I know that I'm trying to figure out if this act is constitutional or not because I'm trying to figure out if Congress had the authority to pass the act or not. What do you think? Flip to the back of the case and figure out if Congress won or if the other person won? Like, I love that law students often treat it like it's like suspense reading. Like, I'm gonna wait until the end to see who wins. Like, I totally understand that because that's the way I started to read. Then I realized it was ridiculous to read that way. It doesn't like get you any better understanding of a case by being surprised at the end. And, like,
Or watching the court unfold.
watching the court unfold, beautiful. That's ridiculous. Like, you have to go to the end, figure out who won, and then only read what relates to why that person won. And it will require you to read very differently. So usually what I do now as an attorney, if I were to read a case, is like, I kind of like maybe read I hope that a few words jump off the page, but really, I go to the end where the judge starts talking. You know, where it says like, what you can sort of tell about 2/3 of the way through, the judge starts actually saying what the decision is. So I like don't even pay attention to the other stuff until I start that part. And then I eventually go back, but I'm hunting for the point of the case. And knowing what the point is completely changes how you're going to read the case. Have we all seen the movie Grease? Right, we're not that old, right? We've all seen the movie Grease. You have not seen the movie Grease?
No.
Oh, come on, really? Okay, I'm sorry, I have to sleep because everybody else has seen this stuff. I'm sorry.
I don't even know it. I think it's a music.
Oh, goodness, I don't know. I'm getting really
Dirty
old.
Dancing? Dirty Dancing? Have you seen Dirty Dancing?
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. Anybody
No,
else?
it's fine. We can
So, for those of us that have seen Grease, so if you knew that the concept, that the point of the movie was that at the end, both people change a little to be able to come together and fall in love. Sandy gets like a little more sexy, Danny gets a little more nerdy, they get together, they're all happy, they're happily ever after. You could go back to the beginning of the movie and just fast forward to the key moments. You could be like, oh, she tried some wine at some party.
She got her ears pierced at the
She got her ears pierced. He went and joined the baseball team or whatever it was, right? So,
They're each
but then,
making changes in order to become.
but what you could completely ignore is
Rizzo got pregnant.
like, yeah, was
The
Rizzo.
whole Rizzo Kanicki thing could totally be thrown out the window.
It has something to do with the guys with the mooning at the thing, at the dance, like, that's not
The
important
whole
either.
dance,
Like, this whole dance.
Marty Maraschino doesn't matter.
Right.
None
so
of it
you-
matters. The
you-
whole point of the movie is Sandy and Danny get together.
And that's it. So, if
But
there's,
if I didn't know that before I started watching the movie, and I was watching the movie with my highlighter.
you would have no, that seems really important. They spent like 15 minutes on that,
Right.
right?
Like,
Like,
what about the pep rally? I would highlight that whole thing, right? I'd highlight the pep rally. I would highlight the entire slumber party scene. I would want to know what was going on between Rizzo and Danny. So I would highlight that part too.
right.
Like all of these extraneous things that really don't ultimately matter because now I know where it's going. So now I'm not going to highlight anything until I now go back and say, aha, she pierced her ears at the slumber party. That I'm highlighting. And I would have totally ignored that before.
Yeah.
Okay?
Because it didn't even seem important. So you always want to go in there like a surgeon and be like, ah, that's the point, I'm going to take it out. And get it and like have that next to you. And that's what you're going to use to go back and read.
So when we say read with the sixth sense, what we want, we're referring to the movie The Sixth Sense. Did everybody see that movie at least? Bruce Willis?
I didn't see part of it.
Okay, good.
Oh no, she only saw part of it, you can't tell her the end.
I'm telling you the end of the movie. You're never going to see this movie. Even though you're my sister, because you're not.
Okay.
Okay.
Come on,
At the end of the movie, we realize, oh my goodness, Bruce Willis is dead. Do you remember this part? This was like this great thing about M. Night Shyamalan, maybe his whole career. Okay, so now everybody who's ever seen this movie goes now back to see.
How could he have been dead? Oh my
How
God,
could he have been
I
the
have to
whole
go back.
time? Like he's talking to all the adults, isn't he?
And then you go back and watch it, you're like, oh
He's
my
not.
God.
Wasn't talking to any of the adults.
So
So now you go, right? Now you go back and you're reading like, ha ha ha. So that's what we mean. read it as if you know where it's going and pay attention to those parts. So now if you know that the court said it's unconstitutional, now pay close attention to whenever the court is making fun of the law or comparing this specific congressional act to a different congressional act that they said was constitutional and why. Now you're reading with precision, you're reading with that sixth sense because you know where it's going.
Right.